Got him.
All right, cool. So Alonzo sent us a request.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this. Come on over.
Am I here? I think I'm here.
You're here. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. That was weird.
Hey, you're here. That's all that matters. We figured it out.
I connected live to something from the past. I don't know. Now I'm trying to get my camera angle right. Between Zoom meetings and podcasts and this, I got to work on my lighting, my camera angles.
You're good, man. Hey, remember? Well, this is Susan, my wife. You're probably
Hello.
wondering who I am. I'm Ed. Hello.
I don't play drums, by the way. I have no idea why I'm here.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I just want to invite you because we're doing a live show every Saturday, and I love your comedy. We've seen you live several times, and the whole point of the show is just to get comedians, artists, musicians, all for the weekend. So how'd you like our green room, man?
Oh, it's fantastic. It reminds me a lot of my house. So that's, very comforting.
Thanks, man.
I'm trying to move around for lighting because I'm not kidding. I got all kind of crap around here. I got you on the iPad, but I also have my phone and my laptop ready to go for backup. So hang on.
Man, you're
Just
set.
moving. All right. I think that's a little better.
That is perfect, sir.
Yeah, that works a little better.
What I was saying was I love your comedy. We've seen you live, and I just wanted to say thank you for joining me. And I know it's weird for a drum shop owner to call a comedian, but I just wanted to appreciate what you do and our fans to know about you. So
all good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So tell me about kind of like your beginnings with comedy. Like, where'd you grow up, and how'd you get into comedy?
Well, okay, so it's two stories, what you're asking. So the first story, I grew up in New York. I grew up in Queens, and I went to a high school called Aviation High School, and I learned to be an airplane mechanic. I got my licenses. I got hired by Lockheed Aircraft, and that was when I moved to LA. I went to Burbank, worked there, and, just bounced around in the aerospace industry for about 10 years.
Right.
And then I was training new mechanics at McDonnell Douglas, and I was having more fun making them laugh than actually teach them. So I got that. That's when I got the idea, maybe I want to be a stand-up. A friend gave me an ad for a stand-up class. I did the class. I did my first 5-minute show. I was absolutely hooked. I got laid off, and I made a promise to myself to never fix airplanes again. And so far, I've been able to keep that promise, and I've been doing stand-up since. So although I grew up in New York, my career is LA based. I'm an LA comic from New York.
That's awesome. When you go on, I know you travel a ton. Do you ever look at the mechanics and go, I don't know what you're doing over there, buddy?
No, actually it's the opposite. The fact that I know how an airplane is built, and let me tell you something, an airplane is built better than anything in your life. Like, it's not even close. The standards required in aircraft compared to a car or anything else. So I'm totally comfortable flying because I'm like, this thing is going to be fine. As a matter of fact, I have a comic friend, Pete Corielli, and we were talking about it once because Pete had a big fear of flying. And he said, man, after you explain to me how a plane is built and all the redundant systems, the backups, he's like, I'm not even afraid anymore. I'm like, yeah, relax, Pete. They got this. So
you're like, yeah, I got it. So your first 15 years, or 15 years ago was Last Comic Standing. How was that winning for you? How was that? Did that kind of catapult your career?
Yeah, I mean,
loved it.
Last Comic is a funny one. We're still in touch. Me and Heffron and Gary Goldman and Tammy and Kathleen and Corey and on and on. We bump into each other. Well, not now, but normally.
Yeah.
It was my introduction to America. So in that sense, it was great. I mean, it was about 6 months of being on TV just about every week. So that was really cool and really big. But what Heffron and what we laugh about is, we walked away from Last Comic. We both won. And we had thousands upon thousands of MySpace friends. which
I see where
not
this is going.
exactly does us a ton of good now. You know, that was the thing. We did the show before social media, right? So when we did it, Facebook was just a little thing. You had to be, I think you had to be in college to be on Facebook back then. Like there was a restriction, you know?
Yeah.
And we had, what did they call it? Forums, I think they were called, or something. Like you had to log in to NBC, then you had to find the show and then log in on the show and then give your opinion. So as Heffron said, in order to hate you, people had to work at it. They had to come up with a screen name and a password. Now they can hate you instantly, which is so much more convenient. So I think that was the biggest difference. I mean, doing it now, the latter winners got a lot more publicity because Twitter and Facebook and all the social media was around. But it was a great experience. We're honestly lifelong comedy friends. I mean, we went through, it was a strange time, and the show was a reality show when we did it. So we actually,
house and all that.
yeah, we were trapped in that castle for I think about a month or something, and you couldn't leave. There was no, back then, kids, we had a thing called newspapers and magazines. We used to actually physically have paper that you could read, but we weren't allowed any of that. No TV, no radio, no phones. Yeah. So it was a very strange time, but we developed some friendships.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Hey, I wanted to say I'm a veteran, and I really appreciate what you do for the USO and helping veterans out, and also doing comedy overseas. What's that meant to you, or how'd you get into that?
Well, the military thing, it started, I started doing military in the late 90s, and that's when it was USO, and they're amazing trips because it's a mutual appreciation, right? So the troops appreciate us coming over and doing shows. We appreciate getting to see how they live, see the world, yeah, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when I started, like I said, it was USO, and went all through the Middle East. I went through Europe. I went to Greenland. I went to Central America and all that. Well, what happened when the war started, when the war started in Iraq, the USO went with the big names. That's when they started taking Leno and Louis Black and Drew Carey, and they would do shows at the big bases for like 10,000 troops before they got shipped out. Right. And guys like me, we kind of moved to a level where we were doing the FOBs. We were working with smaller promoters, but it was great. Like when I did Iraq with a guy named Scott Kennedy, who sadly passed away far too young, we would go into bases. Sometimes there'd be 40 people on the base, and there'd be 30 of them in the mess hall, and we'd do a show. You know, so it was amazing. It was a great experience. I'll always be grateful for it. People have no idea what the military deals with. Not just the danger, but sometimes just the boring level, or being thrown in a completely different culture that you know nothing about, and living in it, you know that. Yeah. So yeah, there's so many levels that the troops deal with stuff that we don't realize. So to get to go there and give them a break from their reality was always fun. The other thing that they loved, and a lot of commanding officers were very cool about it, is we were allowed to make fun of the officers, which they could never do. So they were like, I cannot do that. He just said that. Now, here's the thing. Don't make fun of a general, okay? You stop before general, because they can make a phone call.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, thank you.
What do you mean my taxes are being audited for the last 17 years? It was a joke.
Thank you for doing that, sir. That was awesome. I want to bring up something. About 10 years ago, you did a show, America's Worst Driver.
Oh, don't remind me.
It got a 4.6 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 5, though, for sure.
That is, what up? What, Mark Christopher Lawrence in the house? What up, San Diego? That is a funny, talented man, great actor, and so good to see you there, brother. Wanted to give you a shout out. Anyway, a 4.6 is generous on America's Worst Driver. Okay, let me tell you, your fans, your people watching this, partly how TV works. The show you saw was completely different than the show we did. When we were doing it, let me try to break it down quickly. So Worst Driver is a worldwide brand. In other words, the show had been done in other countries. I think it started in Europe. It's been on in Canada forever. So they said, let's bring it to the United States. And the Travel Channel bought it. And they wanted me and another, and I wish I could remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember my co-host's name. It was a long time ago. No disrespect to her. But anyway, the idea was, say, you, Ed, what's your wife's name?
Susan.
I'm sorry?
Susan.
Okay. So say she wrote to the show and said, my husband, Ed, is the worst driver in America. Right?
Probably, she would probably write that.
We'd have both of you on the show. You would be the driver, she would be the navigator, and we would drive to various iconic places. Like when we were in LA, you had to drive from Venice Beach to Pink's Hot Dogs in Hollywood to Universal Studios to whatever, right? Yeah. You two were in the car with microphones and cameras. We were behind you in a van where I was narrating, and we had a cop, a traffic cop, who was marking down everything you did wrong. Right, so you know, you're speeding here. You ran a red light there. You didn't stop for a pedestrian. Blah 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 blah. All this different stuff, right? And then we had at the end we had an obstacle course. You had to drive the car through the obstacle course, and you had to like parallel park and this and that, right? So we're doing all this narration. We're making it funny. We're laughing at people on the obstacle course. 6 months later, after the show's finished, we did different cities. We went LA, New York, San Francisco, around the country, Chicago. They edited it all together. When the show aired, they didn't even show us as the hosts. They had 90% of it was just from inside the cars, and they would show us a little bit during the obstacle course. And I was like, wait a minute, but all of this narration, all these jokes, all these things we did, all just gone. So people tuned in and they were like, why are these two people arguing in the car? And then the other thing was this.
That would so be us.
We had they had this car crusher, right? It was like this crane made to look like a dinosaur. They got it from some monster truck rally. And whoever was the worst driver, they would crush their car, right? That was like the closing joke. Well, the fans were like, why are you crushing perfectly good cars? You're wasting cars. And we're like, you don't get it. It's TV. It's part of the joke. Yeah, that one. Thanks for reminding me of that show. Of everything I've done, thanks for reminding me of that one. That show got panned pretty hard, but, you know, it was a gig.
I know. I was going to ask you how you like crushing people's dreams in cars, so that was a good one. What do you love about your job, Alonzo? When I see you live, you come out, you command the stage. I love sitting down, grabbing a drink, watching you perform. I always tell Susan, you just tell it like it is, and I love that. What do you love about your job?
That's my favorite thing, the honesty and the creativity. You know, I have always believed that the comic, and this goes back to the court jester, right? We were the only ones, the jester was the only one allowed to make fun of the king. But it had to be funny or they'd chop off his head. See, now I like that because I've sort of grown into a social commentary type comic. That's why I love talking about the news. I love my niece just jumped in. Hey, Shawnee, how are you doing? This is what your uncle does when he's not working. So, so to talk about what's going on in the moment is always fun. The creativity is my favorite part of doing comedy. I like doing crowd work. I like interacting with people. You know, I do some, my friend Ray is here. He's a brilliant percussionist. He's playing with Chicago right now. I met him doing jazz cruises, and to do those, and I get to make fun of the musicians. Like, there's nothing more fun than improvising comedy with jazz musicians who are masters of improv, and then them telling me, man, that was jazz what you just did. You just walked on and did it. So yeah, I would say my favorite thing in comedy is the creativity. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, you were in La Jolla and last time you performed, and someone was heckling you, and you're like, you're not gonna like when I get to the midget joke, sir.
Oh.
And we lost it. It was so funny. And your bit about the 20-year man being, I love that one too. So it was good.
You know, the thing about hecklers, and I tell them up front, like, just remember, I do this every day.
Yes.
Okay, you're drunk tonight. You think you're funny. Like, I make a living being funny, and when we're done, your feelings are gonna hurt. Your friends are gonna remind you of this for years to come.
Yes.
And you know, and so but it's part of the job. The funny thing is, people are like, hey, I helped you. It's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. And the other thing that's funny about hecklers, it's only in stand-up does that happen. There's
so
no
true.
other art form. I was doing a show, and this is last year. So when the Democratic primary still had 37 candidates, right?
Yes.
So I'm joking about Cory Booker, and I'm joking about the fact he's dating, he might still be, I don't know, Rosario Dawson, right? And I'm like, Rosario Dawson, this is the most beautiful, hot Puerto Rican actor. And somebody else, she's Dominican. And I'm like, what? Like, and I'm like, okay, first of all, she is Puerto Rican. Second of all, how the hell do you fact check a show? Who does that? There's nobody, as what I said. I said, there's nobody at Hamilton saying, well, excuse me, they did not rap in 1723. All right? There were no rappers in the 1700s, so it's impossible for it to, this whole show is false. Like, nobody does that in any other art form, right? When you guys play music, you know, you don't play it the same. Nobody, excuse me, I have the record. That's not the solo you played. So we're going to have that. Just stop it and do it again the right way. Like, that doesn't happen in anything else. In comedy, they think they're helping. So to those watching, no, you're not.
I wanted to ask you, just kind of like pull back the curtain a little bit. Where do your jokes come from? I know you love watching news. You have a podcast, which is awesome. I've listened to it a few times. Who's Paying Attention, which is great. Where do your jokes come from? Is it just anywhere, or how does it?
Mostly, most of it is whatever makes me laugh.
Right.
That's what I talk about. The things that make me laugh. It might be ridiculous. It might be stupid. It might just be a thought. It might be something someone said. You know, that it's funny with that, right? Because, you know, you can't talk about anything without mentioning Trump, right? Because that's just the rules now. Right. But when Trump came along with his ridiculousness and whatever, people said, oh, you comics must love it. And it was like, no, we don't. We don't actually, because it's the same thing over and over, right? It's a ridiculous statement or an uninformed statement. Like, you know, you should inject cleaners into your body. Like, no, you shouldn't. No, and do we have to tell you this? See, my thing is, if you want to inject disinfectant, I say go ahead, because we need to thin the herd, and that'll do it. But that's the kind of thing that I may not want to joke about, but I have to joke about because everyone's talking about it, right? So as a comic, you have to acknowledge it. But then there are other things that are more, they're funny to me, and then I bring it up to the crowd. And that could be anything from talking about the Clippers to relationships to airports to, you know, life.
Yeah, that reminds me of your Amazon special. We just watched it, Heavy Lightweight. That's so perfect because you got the heavy subjects, the lighter subjects. You kind of blend them beautifully. So that's awesome, man.
I'm going to tell you, this is probably my favorite story about Heavy Lightweight. And it is exactly what you said. See, and you got it, because that's the joke of the title, and that's what it is. Yep. What up, Jay? How you doing? Big Irish Jay just joined. People, shout out to a hilarious comic. He's from Boston, so we're going to try to not hold that against him. Don't play sports with him because he cheats, just like all of his teams. Yeah, I said it, Jay. Just like all of your teams. Filthy cheaters, all right? I wonder if Tampa's going to learn to cheat. I'm just saying. Anyway.
If your name is Big Irish, you're from Boston. That's just how it goes. You know what I mean?
I don't even remember what the hell I was talking about.
Heavy Lightweight.
But,
about your
no, I'm kidding. Yeah. So the thing was just what you said, heavy topics and lightweight. So I might talk about racism, and then I talk about Taco Bell, you know, like, literally heavy and light. I got a complaint from a woman about the yoga pants joke. And I was like, really?
She
That's what
loves it.
set you off with everything in there, with me talking about racism and, you know, talking about Black Lives Matter and police shootings, which was going on back then, you know, still going on. But you know what I mean? It was big in the news, the Me Too movement, all of that. She got upset about yoga pants. And this is why, like, as a comic, people say, are you afraid to talk about, like, no, I'm not afraid to talk about anything, because no matter what you talk about, someone will be offended. If
Oh, yeah.
if I set you off with the yoga pants joke, let's not talk about racism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where, how do you get upset over yoga pants, by the way? Is
Yeah.
there a greater invention known to man than yoga pants? Women love them and men love looking at them, okay? The only time yoga pants are wrong is if a man is wearing them. Fellas, if you're thinking about it, yeah, they're my basketball tights. No one wants to see that, all right? You put shorts over them and you stay on a basketball court.
Oh, my God.
If you're a man and you're wearing tights and you are not working out, you're wrong, all right? Stop it.
Oh,
Just stop it.
my wife is just cracking up. I don't know if you can hear her, but thank you so much for making us laugh. It's great. Hey, I just want to say thank you for joining us today, man. I know you didn't know me, and I appreciate you taking the time. And we love your comedy.
You know, I checked my schedule, and I happen to be open until June. So, yeah, I got a few minutes for the drummer.
Yeah, cool. How do people find you? I know you got a podcast. Can you kind of go over what you're doing?
Yeah. So here on Instagram, I'm at ZoFunny, ZOFUNNY. All my other social media is my name, Alonzo Bodden, ALONZOBODDEN, or just look up Comic Alonzo. It'll be me or Christella Alonzo. You can tell us apart. And on May 7th, okay, and then I'm going to tell you the story about this date, but May 7th, I'm going to be on a thing. It's called the Nowhere Comedy Club, and it's a virtual comedy club. We're doing shows. Brad, why am I blanking on Brad's last name? The little guy. You know, what?
The little guy. Yeah.
Why am I blanking on? Anyway, it's Ben Glebe is running it. And Brad Williams, I'm sorry, Brad's going to kill me. Brad Williams just did one. It was great. He had over 300 people logged in. So I'm going to be doing that on May 7th. Now, let me explain to you why it's May 7th. Originally, I was going to be doing it on May 9th. And then they announced a little comedy fundraiser on May 9th, headlined by Eddie Murphy and Adam Sandler and Chris Rock and Tiffany Haddish. And I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to get many viewers that night. So
not the best. But
we moved mine to May 7th. I'm going to be posting it here on Instagram and all other social media. So look for me at the Nowhere Comedy Club, which is going to be fun. I'm going to make a little money and you know, some of the money's for comics. We're trying to help comics who, especially like the newer comics, the opening acts and all, because they're the ones, this is really tough for them because they have nothing. Like they're, you know, and I remember those days. Every comic, we remember those days where if you got $50 for a gig, that was great, you know. And those are the comics who are really starving right now. I looked on unemployment to see what category we are. This is just funny to me. So, if you're a comedian, if you're lucky enough to be in SAG, if you're a union actor, you can put that down and collect unemployment. Otherwise, the closest thing I saw to stand up was traveling live carnival worker, basically a carny. Yeah, you had to claim that you're an actor or what up, Nick? You had to either be an actor or a carny. There's no category for unemployed stand-up comics. So, you know, we do stuff like that. And again, it's going to help. Well, it's going to help me because I'm an unemployed stand-up, but I got an opening act, and we do it just like we do in a club. So we get to help everyone out. This
week you performed with Craig Robinson at Laugh Factory. That was hilarious. The live, oh my God, I was cracking up for that.
Jamie Masada, who runs the Laugh Factory, has been doing every day at 2:00. He does a live stream show, and different comics come in. And now Craig Robinson is kind of the house band. Like Craig sits there with his keyboard playing. And I've known Craig, man, we've been friends we were trying to figure it out, 20 years. at least. And we were sitting there joking. The thing I love about Craig, if you're people watching this, if you don't know Craig Robinson, look him up. Craig does you'll recognize him from TV, from The Office and from his movies and stuff, but his stand-up is with his keyboard doing songs. And I said, Craig knows the beginning of every song. Craig knows like the first minute. After that, he got nothing. So we had a blast, man. Laugh Factory on YouTube, and that's at 2:00 Pacific time every day. It goes for about an hour, a little over an hour, and they have different comics. And we're basically doing stand-up in an empty club. Like that's what we're doing. And
it's great. We laughed our butt off. Thank you for doing that, man. That was awesome.
Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks, Alonzo. Oh, one more thing. Basketball. I'm a huge basketball fan, too. Grew up playing it. Who is your favorite all-time basketball player?
Wow. Let me show you. Okay? Because someone gave me this jersey
How much time we have?
As a gift.
Oh, yeah. The #1 scorer of all time. Yeah, that's a good basketball player.
Kareem.
Yep.
It always bothers me that they don't mention Kareem AbdulJabbar when they talk about greatest player of all time.
Yes.
You know, 3 times college basketball player of the year, 3 NCAA championships, 6 NBA championships, I think 5 or 6 NBA MVPs, all-star for like 20 years in a row, whatever. No disrespect to Michael or LeBron or any, but they don't even mention Kareem. He's the guy, you know, when they say if you could have lunch with somebody, you know, and talk, he's the guy. I would love the arc of his career and his life. Patrick, what's up? Let me tell you, people, Patrick DeRocha just jumped on. If we had more time, I'd tell you the story about how I got to meet Justin Trudeau, okay? Yes, I got to meet the Prime Minister of Canada because Patrick didn't do a background check as I was wandering around Parliament. Yeah, he was like, "Hey, you want to meet the Prime Minister?" It's like, "Yes." Do you have any idea who I am? I tell dick jokes, Patrick. I shouldn't be meeting prime ministers, and yet it happens. So thank you, my friend. Hope you're good.
Yeah, my favorite NBA player is probably DWade. I love his style. He's a great guy. I think I love him. He's great.
Amazing guy. I have a friend who runs a limo company, and he drives DWade and Gabrielle Union. Like they're his clients. And he said DWade is a great guy and this and that. And big family and entourage. He's like, yeah, when you drive them, it's never just them, you know. Yeah, but I've heard nothing but good things about him. And this is my question with DWade, because I'm 6'3", okay, a little fatter than DWade, but you know, I'm not coming off of an NBA career. I don't know who's making his clothes. I have trouble finding a suit. This guy's rolling out in Versace and everything else. I'm like, who do you know? And then I remembered, oh yeah, he makes $25 million a year. Clothes are easier for him. He's DWade.
He's good. He's good. Well, Alonzo, thank you, man. It was so good. It was awesome talking to you, sir. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to meet you and say hello. And thank you again, man.
I'm glad I found you instead of looking at your old live clips. But to everyone out there, thank you. Like I said, May 7th, it's going to be the Nowhere Comedy Club. But comedy will be back. People talk about, is live comedy coming back? Yeah, just like everything else. It'll take a while to get back to normal. We will be in clubs. We will be out there live. We will be funny for you. Even Big J is going to come back out there, right? Jay, you better have your ass out there. No, we're all going to be back. We're going to be laughing. Try to keep your sense of humor through all of this. Don't watch too much news. Limit your news because you're going to lose your mind. And I'm talking to a man in a drum shop. Music, man. Listen to some music. Anything. Open your mind up. You know what I mean? Just don't get caught up in this bullshit 24/7. Give yourself a break. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me on. It's fun to be funny. Everybody who clicked in, TJ, yeah, I'm going riding, TJ. TJ's a motorcycle buddy. We didn't even get to talk about motorcycles and how much I love them. But it's a great escape vehicle and perfect social distancing. I'm wearing a helmet and gloves. Get away from me.
Hey, talk to you soon. Thank you again, sir.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.